Hey everybody, this is a clip from the latest episode of the Access Blockbusters Pod. If you want to check out the full podcast, check it out on the YouTube channel, Anchor, or Spotify. Hope you enjoy. Now, let's talk about the other big MCU thing, and that's Loki. So, look, if you guys have seen my episode 6 review video, you guys know that I'm very conflicted about this show. And this is the first time that I felt like this about any MCU product. And the reason is this. It's because, with movies, it's hard in a movie to be that inconsistent unless you're like a product of just chopping room floor stuff and like editing and like, for example, the first Suicide Squad was very uneven and inconsistent. But in general, when you're watching a 2-hour film, it has a consistency from beginning to end. It has one or two or, one team of writers. It has one set of directors, same actors, same characters, and it's one plot. And so the 24 previously released MCU movies, I felt, at the very least, are consistent. I mean, I think The Incredible Hulk is consistently boring, but it's still consistently The Incredible Hulk. With these MCU shows thus far, I think WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier have been pretty consistent as well. I think WandaVision kind of derailed itself a little bit at the end, but not too much, right? And Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think all the way through, was very consistent. And I thought that was good. Here, the thing about Loki is, to me, the varying levels of quality of this show are jarring. And this is the first time that I felt like almost every single episode of Loki was written by a different person. And I'm sure that most of WandaVision's episodes were written by different people, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier's episode were written by different people. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm saying that with Loki, I looked up after the first few episodes, like who's writing these episodes, and sure enough, it's a different person each time. And you can tell it's like 6 little pockets of writing that are just so varying in quality to me. And it's frustrating because I don't know how to look at this show holistically anymore. I don't. Just to give you a little bit of a brief recap, I loved episodes 1 and 2. I thought they were fantastic. I didn't hate is a strong word. I didn't hate episode 3. I just thought it was completely useless, I thought there were better ways to develop the Sylvie-Loki relationship. Well, they went from point A to point B in episodes 1 and 2, and then basically Loki and Sylvie went from point B to point negative A and had to go all the way back to point A, and now they're like behind again. It was just frustrating to me. And then in episode 4, they ramped up the gear again, and I thought episode 4 was fantastic. And then episode 5 kind of stalled a little bit again. And it was a little confusing to me. I was like, okay, sure, setting up a finale, great. And then the finale just kind of abruptly ended. And it's just, it felt a little disappointing to me. And now we're gonna address a few things here in this segment of the podcast about Loki, but I will say this up front. A lot of my feelings about this show are very subjective and personal. And if you enjoyed those things, which I know a lot of people did, for the life of me, I don't understand. I don't understand. But fine, and that's totally great. But as long as we can all respect each other's opinions, then I don't think we have a problem at all. So, look, with Kang, and I know this is not probably the big bad version of Kang. I know on paper this is the insane Immortus version that just went crazy after millennia of sitting there. I get that. People have been saying to me, oh, but, can't you tell, like, well, hey, he's insane. That's why he's acting like that. I never had a question in my mind of why he was acting the way he was. It's just that I didn't like it. That's it. I thought he was corny. I thought he was cringy. I thought he was some weird mixture of the Joker, both Jared Leto and some Heath Ledger in there, not in a good way, and even Jeff Goldblum, I just, it was this weird amalgamation of performances and eccentricity that just didn't work for me. And so there's one thing, right? You hinge 1/6 of your show, because all of episode 6 was about Kang. You hinge 1/6 of your show on Kang, which I didn't like, and I didn't, love the finale. That is what it is. And I am dearly hoping that we get, a more menacing version of Kang in the future. I have no doubt we will. But again, it's something that adds to my sort of nervousness about the next time we see Kang. Because if an Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer comes out and it's this same version of Kang, I'm gonna obviously watch everything, but I'm not gonna be as excited as I could be, So there's that. So they hinge the show on Kang at the end. Okay, fine. Another thing they hinge the show on is the relationship between Loki and Sylvie. And, while I am warming up to the Sylvie character a little bit, I still don't love the character even on her own. And to have her be this crux of Tom Hiddleston's Loki's character it was a little bit of a stretch to me. It just didn't work, and if you're hinging like half your show on that, well, then obviously I'm not going to enjoy that half of the show, really. And luckily, episodes 1, 2, and 4 were not really about that relationship at all. And that's fine. It was good. Episode 4 a little bit, but, they weren't together that much in that episode until the end. And that, not coincidentally, I think, was the part of the show that I liked the most. And then at the end of the day, what this show... Because here's the thing about this show. The showrunners and the show writers and the head writer, Michael Waldron, was saying that this is ultimately, and the director, Kate Herron, I believe, or Harlan or something like that. I apologize. I don't remember her last name. But the show, the people in charge of the show were saying this is a show about Loki's identity. And Loki finding out who he really is. And I think that they did a very effective job of that overall. From the beginning, you have this arrogant, brash, narcissistic version of Loki from the Avengers. And he goes on a journey of self-discovery. And I think that is totally great. I think that's one of the best parts of the show, to be quite honest with you. But then, I think at the very end, they sort of forgot that was their mission and got so wrapped up in introducing the multiverse. Because here's the thing. I think there's a difference between character growth and a character arc. I think that we saw tremendous character growth from this version of Loki, but I don't think we saw a satisfying character arc, because at the end of the day, when Sylvie and Loki kiss, which, it wasn't Rise of Skywalker bad, but it wasn't good either. And then Sylvie kicks him out, and he's left alone, and now Mobius doesn't even recognize him. I asked myself the question of, what has this Loki learned throughout his experiences? He's learned to not be as narcissistic, and that's good. But at the end of the day, the lesson that this show is trying to tell Loki is that no matter how hard you try to not be bad and to be, as not narcissistic as possible, the world hates you. And you just can't have nice things. And you're alone. And look, that's a great, I think, villain origin story, if not for the fact that we have seen Loki be a villain for some 5 years before he converted to a hero in Ragnarok and Infinity War. So if we want Loki to be a villain again, I guess he can turn bitter all over again and say, I really am alone, and where's Mobius, and all that sort of stuff. And that, again, that was just a little disappointing to me. I don't dislike a lack of closure necessarily. I dislike a lack of closure when it doesn't feel like it's warranted. Someone I was talking to me about The Empire Strikes Back and how this sort of felt like it. And I thought, yeah, in a way, right? The Empire Strikes Back was very open-ended at the very end. But also it felt like there was like this tangible plot thread of like, Luke did have the confrontation with his father and he lost because of his own arrogance, because of the things that he did, because of his pitfalls, he lost. And this show feels more like Loki, in spite of all of his goodness in this series, is still a loser. And maybe that's just me. It very well might just be me, but again, it's just something that didn't quite sit well with me, you know? So, look, at the end of the day, and we'll talk about the future of the MCU in the next segment, in the final segment, but at the end of the day, I think WandaVision is by far and away the best show of Phase 4 so far. And that's disappointing to me because after episodes 1 and 2, you guys can you'll go back and watch my videos. I said that if Loki continued on this pace, it was going to easily be my favorite show. Not only that, it was going to crack my top 5. And it was. If it continued on that episode 1 to 2 pace, it was going to crack my top 5 somehow. Top 6 maybe. And at the end of the day, WandaVision had a clear story. Yes, it botched the finale a little bit. It was just, mindless action, although the visions were great. But Agatha was a disappointment. Fine. You know what? Guardians of the Galaxy is a horrible villain to me. And I think that movie is top 10-ish. And maybe might be 11 or 12. I don't quite remember off the top of my head. What other movies are there that are... I mean, if you'll notice in my top 10 of my MCU, that usually the villains are really good. Like Thor Ragnarok, though, is in the top 10. And I don't think Hela is a great villain. That's okay. I don't think Taskmaster is a great villain, but I think Black Widow is easily in the upper half of the MCU. So, you botch Kang, and it's fine. That's not what defines an MCU project to me. But at the end of the day, anyways, that WandaVision had a consistency to it. And at the end of the show, when they were closing out, it ended... they had a little bit of an epilogue with Wanda coming back out of the Hex and all that sort of stuff, but the ending scene, the true ending of the show, was, we have said goodbye before, so it stands to reason that we'll say hello again. So long, darling. That was the end of the show. And, it felt right. It felt resonant. It felt like it was good. It was a good ending. Even though Wanda had done so many bad things, it felt like the show had found its closure. Not resolution necessarily, because obviously there's not much resolution for Wanda, who's going on the run now, but closure, right? Like Civil War, Captain America Civil War. Steve beats up Iron Man and his friends are in prison, but there was still closure. Not necessarily resolution, but closure. This Loki show just felt like it was setting up other stuff. And for everyone saying that Loki Season 2 is going to pick up with all these storylines about Ravonna Renslayer, and it very well might do that. I also think that with this interconnectedness of the MCU, this is one of the disadvantages of that. If it's to be believed, The Hollywood Reporter, Loki is appearing in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which means that a bunch of stuff is going to happen to Loki in between the ending of Loki Season 1 and Loki Season 2. It's not like, for an example, if you have seen the Umbrella Academy, if you haven't seen the Umbrella Academy, a little bit of a spoiler, I won't say exactly what it is, but the end of Season 2 of the Umbrella Academy ends on a gigantic cliffhanger, right? Like, it's just an enormous cliffhanger. And so I expect in the Umbrella Academy Season 3 that the show picks up on that. Right? I can't expect that from Loki because I don't know what's going to happen in between Season 1 and Season 2. And to me, that's not necessarily an exciting thing because I want to pick up right where we left off. Okay, you don't give me resolution on Ravonna, and now you have a different Mobius and a different B-15, and Loki's lost, and Sylvie's at the Citadel, and now the Kangs are coming. I want a Season 2 that's standing alone with Season 1. Where you explore Ravonna, where you explore Mobius on his jet ski, where you explore a different evil Kang can be the villain of the whole Season 2. As it stands, it just doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. So, me personally, I find myself not being able to be excited about Season 2 yet. Once we kind of see, what they're going to do, then we'll kind of figure out. And the other thing I'll say about this is that Kevin Feige, said that Loki was going to be a thriller, like a crime thriller, like a law and order procedural kind of a thing. And the first few episodes were, and those were the best parts of the show. But the last 4 weren't. So whatever the trailer for Loki season 2 and whatever the concept is, whether it's like a buddy cop movie or if it's a space adventure or whatever, I just don't know what to expect because I'm always going to be worried that at the end of the day, it's just going to be setting up the next movie. That's all. So again, my overall thoughts on Loki, wildly inconsistent. The best parts of the show far outweigh, maybe not far outweigh, but pretty significantly outweigh the negatives, the positives do. And I would still think WandaVision is a better show, but I think that it's better than Falcon and Winter Soldier because the highs are so much higher than the highs of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. And those are my thoughts on Loki. Look, I'm excited for season 2, little nervous, very nervous for him in Doctor Strange with the Multiverse of Madness. I hope they don't just kind of shoehorn him in there for a little cameo about like what's going on. The TVA is broken, and then Doctor Strange fixes everything. And we'll see. The next show up is What If. We'll see if that has any canonical ramifications. If not, the next canon show is is Hawkeye, presumably, or maybe Miss Marvel. I think it's Hawkeye though. And we'll just move on from there. I didn't like Loki that much as I thought I would, and that's totally fine.